All right, hi guys. Welcome to this three videos. I'm going to make three short videos, one for each of these questions rather than one long one. Okay, this is the first of the questions I gave you on the term one break, and I'm hoping that you have had a break and a good one, because this term is going to be challenging. And busy for lots of different reasons, not the least of which is, it's our main term where we can get a lot of work done. But anyway, let's move on. So this is the first question here. Now, what this question really is testing, besides a bit of algebra skills, is also testing to see if you understand what happens to a sine and cosine function when you put basically like a number like this one here, 2020, into this function here. And so what does that mean when you have 2020 pi plus some angle? And you do that for a sine and cosine function. That's one thing we're going to have to look at. And also, what happens then when you add, so that's basically like an even multiple of pi into here and here. And then also the second thing that this is testing is then saying, okay, what happens if we add then another pi value on? So we've got 2021. So this becomes an odd multiple of pi. Okay, what happens to the sine and cosine function when you do that? So we're going to deal with that, basically, we'll just take that in two steps then. So the first thing I did when I looked at this is I substituted in the 2020 and just having a look and seeing, well, what does that do to the function? So let's do that. So if we put 2020 into our function, so we're going to get 2020 pi plus alpha, and then the equivalent cosine one. And we are told that that is equal to 10, so I should actually have put, well, this is going to be equal to 10. Let's do that, because we're given that information. So one thing I asked you to do in the hints was to look at, with Desmos, what happens when you add an even multiple of pi, like 2 pi, 4 pi, etc., to this here. Well, what you should have discovered, and I'll just bring that over here. So let me just drop out of here, get internet back up, bring this over here. So if we have the sine function and we're adding on an even multiple of pi, okay, basically what does that do? Well, what you should know from previous work is that this is a translation, basically by a factor of some multiple of 2 pi. Basically, we're shifting the graph either to the left or to the right, depending on what this number is here, whether it's positive or negative. We can consider this perhaps to be a translation to the left by 2020 pi. Okay, even if that was 2 pi, okay, so make that 2 pi. Okay, so if we turn that graph off, there's the red one, that's the sine one, and basically we've shifted the graph basically back onto itself. And the equivalent would happen if it's cosine. So if this is, change this to cosine, okay, we see that we've got the same graph again. So there's the green cosine one, and this is going back on top of it. So what does that mean? Well, it means that, to come back to this here, we can basically say that this is really equivalent to a sine alpha plus b cos alpha equal to 10. Okay, so, and this alpha here, well, that could be any angle that we want it to be, as long as it's the same angle here. So this is one thing to bear in mind. Now, the other thing was, okay, we're substituting in 2021. So how are we going to do that? Well, to make life easier, we can say, well, let's make some temporary variable up and make it equal to this angle that we've got here. Okay, so this 2020 pi plus alpha, and so we could say we've got a sine y plus b cosine y is equal to 10. Now what happens if we then add on another pi? Because that's what we're doing here. Okay, we're substituting in not 2020 but 2021. So we would have y plus pi. Remember, y is 2020 pi plus alpha, and we're adding on another pi there. So effectively what we're doing here is we're getting the value of this. And let's do the same for the cosine one. Okay, and we want to know, well, what is that equal to? Did I leave something out from the question? Just a second. I think I did. Oh yeah, we had a plus 1 here, sorry. So we had a plus 1 there. So this would equal 9. Apologies about that. Okay, and this would also equal 9. Okay, so substituting in, okay, hold on. Sorry guys, I'm gonna make a change here. Let's make that plus 1 equal to 10. It's just going to be easier if we leave it like that. Come on, computer. Get away. And so we've got this, and this is what we want to find the value of. Okay, so the second bit of understanding about trig sine and cosine graphs is what happens if we simply are adding on an odd multiple of pi. So we've got this, which is effectively the same as our original angle, okay, because of what we said before, that sine of this even multiple of 2 pi being added on effectively doesn't change the sine or cosine graph. But what happens if we've got just adding on an odd multiple? So once again, if we just drop out of here and have a look at Desmos again, so, and this was in the hint stuff that I gave you as well. So let's bring in our cosine graph. Let's get rid of that. So this is our sine graph, and let's have a look and see what happens if we add on an odd multiple of pi. Effectively, the red graph has been reflected in the x-axis, and this is equivalent to, and I'll just put it down here, y equals negative sine x. Okay, so you can see that green graph now is overlapping the blue one. So sine of x plus pi is equivalent to negative sine x, and that could be any odd multiple of pi. So let's make that a 3. Notice how that's not changing things. So let's undo that. So notice that whether it's 3 or 5, it's still the same thing. And the same thing is going to happen with the cosine one. So this is our cosine graph, and let's bring in this one here. Once again, a reflection in the x-axis, and this would be equivalent to y equals negative cos x. Okay, so what does all that mean in terms of this question? Well, it means that if we go back to here, we can say, well, this is equal to A, and this will be the sine A times negative sine Y plus B times negative cos Y plus 1. Now we can take out a common factor of negative 1, so negative A sine Y plus B cos Y from those two plus 1. And remember, y was equal to this. But remember that when we put this in here, we've already seen that that's equal to this here. So we've got negative A sine alpha plus B cos alpha plus 1. And just a sec. Right. And so taking this a stage further, then this part here, okay, we can see that that part up to there is equal to 9, basically. Okay, because we can move that 1 to the other side, so this is going to become negative 9 plus 1, so this will be equal to negative 8. Okay. All right, I'm hoping that's clear enough. If it's not, please let me know. Okay, so the key points again were, okay, when we substitute in the 2020 pi, that is equivalent to basically just this. The 2020 pi can drop off because all we're doing is translating to the left or to the right by 2 pi, so it's equal to this. And so this part here that I've got the brace underneath, it was going to be equal to 9. Okay, and if we replace this 2020 pi plus alpha with a temporary substitution, let's call it y, we get this here. So this will be equal to 10. And then if we put in that extra pi value, what does that do? Well, that's going to effectively make it equal to this part here, equal to negative sine y, and this will be negative cos y. Taking out the negative 1 from the first couple of terms here, we're going to basically have a sine y, b cos y, and that is going to be equal to, if we put the 2020 pi plus alpha back, but that's equal to just alpha. So this will become a sine alpha, this will become b cos alpha, and these first two terms here, going back to this, what's underlined in the brace here, okay, is equal to 9, so we've got negative 9 plus 1 equal to negative 8. All right, I'm hoping that is clear enough. If not, as I said, please let me know. Sorry, this took a bit longer than I thought it would.